What's going on, everybody? The Real Sharif M here, aka Mangana Steel, with another video for you. Strap in, it's gonna be a bit of a spicy one. Alright, you guys, so before I get into it and kind of tell you what this is all about, first, I want to say I was going to release the Knife Standards RR review today, but that's going to come out on Tuesday. I have been carrying this thing, and this thing's pretty dope. It's a little bit of a pocket ninja, I'm not going to lie. Despite its size and its weight, it actually really disappears in the pocket. And that's been a bit of a surprise to me. I kind of dig this thing, man. This is going to be a little bit of a heavy one today because there's some serious topics that I want to kind of discuss. And I'm sorry if the glare in the glasses bothers some of you, but today I kind of have a bit of a list of things that I want to talk about on the computer, and I kind of need the glasses to see. I'm recording this at 12:30 a.m. The night before this video goes up because I really wanted to compile my thoughts on this. There's two issues that I really want to address. One, what I consider to be kind of like faux patriotism, right? And the other is bigotry and bullying, both of which, like I said, are kind of big issues, but stick with me, please. I beg of you, I find these to be two pretty big issues that I want to deal with regard to the knife community. Kind of what grinds my gears about faux patriotism is a lot of people come up with these excuses in the comments. I've seen it all over Instagram about why they don't want to buy our own Chinese-made knives. And I really want to kind of address some of their talking points and maybe, give you guys some good sort of knowledge to kind of combat these, what I consider trolls on this issue. So first, is Chinese anything sucks. And this often comes from people who have very little experience with Chinese-made knives. I mean, really, if you have been even remotely close to this community for the last few years, and you've experienced some of the amazing quality products that have been coming out from China at all different price points, you know this to be factually untrue. Also, these people who often say this, they say they won't dare owning anything Chinese and they want to be 100% American. Well, they often type this stuff on their iPhone, which is made in China, right? It's part of the game. We're moving into kind of a globalist society, and it's unavoidable that, things will be made in China, will be made in other countries. It's just part of how a globalist society works. And the reality is we, as a nation, pushed all of our manufacturing outside of this country in order to lower costs and take advantage of lower labor costs. So you can't benefit from the system of more affordable products, right? But also bitch about it, in my book. So I guess the second point really that a lot of these people make is that buying Chinese funds communism. And really kind of yes and no, but majority no, right? A lot of these people will say, oh, the Chinese government owns every one of these companies and they're taking money out of these companies and putting it into their pocketbooks. But that's actually not really the case. A lot of the, small, mid-size sort of businesses, even a lot of their tech companies are privately held, just like here. So I don't see where this argument really stems from or comes from. The only place where I can see this argument happening is that, okay, you buy a product made by a Chinese company, this funds somebody's salary, and then they go spend that money in their own country, in their own home, where the country takes like taxes and stuff like that. But man, that's a lot of, you know, hoops to jump through to come to the conclusion that you're directly funding communism and like the strength of the communist nation, right? Like, I don't know, man. I don't really see this argument being that strong, and really, I don't get it. I don't get it. Third, China underpays its workers across the board. This is often something that's like trotted out, right? I'm sure there are still factories that abuse their people, right? But the reality is the lower middle class and the middle class of Chinese workers are actually, it's the largest growing sector that China has had, you know, in like the last decade, if not longer. It's actually been expanding at like a tremendous rate. And one verifiable metric that you can actually use to kind of look at this is if you look at tourist destinations, a large number of tourists there are now Chinese lower middle class and middle class people. You do not world travel unless you have money. It's impossible. And you can find other statistics that support exactly what I'm saying. But I had some idiot in my comments that said, "Oh, I did a Google search and they're paid like a maximum rate of $3.99 an hour." And he provided zero evidence to this argument. If you want to make this argument to me, show me evidence. Show me the receipts. Show me where you found these statistics. Next, China overcharges for their products. Dude, this comes from people who have never worked a day manufacturing anything with any overseas company. Ever, right? Which is hilarious to me because it's like, where do you come up with this conclusion from? This guy literally, you know, quoted me the statistics, say, or these not statistic, but he quoted me these numbers. He's like, well, if you know, pay people only this much an hour, it takes this many hours to manufacture a knife. Like, first of all, how many hours do you know that it takes to manufacture a knife? Have you manufactured anything? No. So you're just making up random numbers, right? Then you say, okay, well, you know, assuming material costs and all of this, then they're like charging, you know, 500, you know, million% over the cost of making this knife. And I was like, bro, like I'm actively working with OEMs. I know what the costs me, right? And I know what kind of profit margin they're operating on. Okay? So when I sell it to you after I get it with my profit margin, right, it's not as inflated as you would really think. It really isn't. When you look at companies like Tucson, when they're selling their knives for, you know, $150 with the amount of work that they're putting into their knives, great example is this Tucson TS380 here with all this milling in order to do the carbon fiber inlays. The inlays have their own milling, right? The assembly process, the QC. This thing is being sold very close to cost for these guys, like realistically speaking. So they're not making as much money as you would think, right? So unless you have direct experience working in factories, you can miss me with this argument, right? Like, really. Because at the end of the day, like, business is business, right? People don't run businesses to not put food on the table, okay? If you, like, again, let's use the automotive companies as an example. Do you know how much it costs to actually make a truck, like a Ford F-150 that many of you drive? Right? The actual cost for Ford, and I know this because I used to work in the automotive industry, the actual cost is somewhere between like $15,000 to $18,000. That's it. That's it. Maybe a little bit more these days, because that statistic is what, probably like or that number is probably about a little over a decade old. But 15 to 18, let's call it today $20,000. $20,000. But you can easily pay a grip for an F-150 or an F-150 derivative. Okay? So, business is business. Nobody is running a business not to eat and to not make profit and to not grow their business and their company. Okay? So, don't come at me with this, China overcharges for their products. Okay? Especially when you consider, like, how much does a titanium frame lock cost from China? You can get a quality titanium frame lock for, like, I don't know, under $150 in a good steel from China right now. You can get a premium one with premium steel for under $200. When was the last time you saw that from an American manufacturer? Guess what? You didn't. You didn't. I think the cheapest, like, titanium frame lock that I've seen from an American manufacturer was a Small and Cosi for like $465. Okay? So you can definitely miss me with this argument. All of this is to say that, like, it's okay not to like shit. It really is. Like, if you don't like Chinese knives and it's just an irrational thing for you, like, fine, admit it. But don't, like, shroud yourself behind, your faux understanding of, like, politics and foreign affairs and logical fallacies, or even, like, shrouded racism. Just say you don't like shit, right? It's okay. You don't have to prove to us, like, how smart you are, and you definitely don't need to, like, shove it down our throats. You know how many people I've seen that really want to, like, get up on a freaking, soapbox and talk about how, China this, China that, China this, China that. Like, let people buy what they want to buy. Like, let people live, man. Live and let live. And that concept brings me to this last part, right? This sort of, like, bigotry and bullying. Now, unfortunately, some people that I have spoken to lately have experienced, like, some kind of bullying or name calling or whatever, okay? I have been on the receiving end of, not in the knife community. Let me just clear that up. Just in my life of, like, ethnic threats, racism, attempted bullying, right? And I won't stand for it. And if you're going to be part of the manganese steel community, you better come correct. Because, like, dude, if I'm if I'm in public, if I'm anywhere, and you start trying to throw, like, racial epithets at anybody who's around me, you're not going to have a good day. We have enough garbage people doing garbage things, like the whole Liang Ma situation, right? Those people are the people we should be focusing on. We should be looking at their history of behavior. But if a person is just existing and you decide to, like, randomly attack them because you don't like something about them randomly, that's not acceptable to me. I don't know, man. This may seem like a little bit of a rambling kind of point, but I just really want to say that, like, I don't stand for any bigotry or bullying. I don't want it around me. If you think that's a fun thing to do and you want to, goad somebody or go after them for whatever reason, I'm just not cool with it. I'm not. And that's who I am as a person. I don't stand for bullies. I never have and I never will. Ever. Ultimately, my message is this. Live and let live. Right? Really, live and let live. I don't care who you are. I don't care what your gender is, was, or wasn't. I don't care what your pronouns are. You all are beautiful people. Okay? You all have a place in this world as far as I'm concerned. And what you do and who you are doesn't affect me. It doesn't in the least. What I want is a positive community where people can come together and really share their appreciation and their love of knives. And I think we have that. I genuinely think we do. But there's just a few people who need to be corrected on this issue, you know? But for me, the knife community has been one of the most beautiful communities I've ever been in, and I want to keep it that way. I really do.